Congressman Raja Krishnamoorthi is on a phone line. He's back in town, heading back to D.C., he reminded us, in about a week and a half. Congressman, talk to me a little bit about then what will the agenda be for the likes of you when you get out there. Will the stimulus or a supplement be the first thing to do?
That's my desire. I think that most people are going to want to focus on that. And then there are other matters that have to be dealt with, such as making sure that we pay all the bills by the end of the fiscal year, which is September 30th. And so essentially what we normally do, if everything is kind of running on time, you set a budget and appropriations for the following fiscal year, so starting October 1. Of course, now we're approaching an election, so sometimes what happens is they put it on what's called a continuing resolution. So they say, okay, well, let's just keep everything the same until after the election and then take it up in December.
So it's September 1st, and the president's payroll tax deferral begins today, correct?
That's right, yeah. It was announced last Friday.
It's not really getting a lot of attention, but so we're going to see less money coming out of our paychecks.
For Social Security.
Yeah, I think like 6.2%, but we're going to have to pay it back after the first of the year.
So I don't know what your employer has decided, but it's up to each employer to decide how they want to proceed. If an employer decides that they want to take advantage of this particular provision, then yes. Basically what happens is they defer the taxes until next year. And that's where, a lot of employers and employees have a lot of angst, right? Because, those bills are going to come due at the very same time the Christmas bills are due and everything else. And then B, as an employer, they don't know all the rules. So if an employee separates or goes somewhere else, is the employer on the hook for it? Those are the types of questions that haven't been answered yet.
Would everything that was deferred between now and the end of the year have to be paid right after the beginning of the new year?
That's right.
It would.
Yeah. I think that their guidance, so to speak, is that it's due, by February-March timeframe. But can I just say one other thing? I just think this is such a bad idea for another reason, which is that this is the money that goes into the Social Security and Medicare trust funds, which are already kind of shaky. So whenever you divert the stream from those trust funds, the actuaries, the people who actually try to figure out how do we lengthen the time of these trust funds, go nuts. They basically say, look, you're depleting the trust fund much faster than we had anticipated. And so that's another bad reason, I think, behind this idea. If I were an employer, I think a lot of employers are not going to take advantage of it or not do that for their employees.
How would I know if my employer is going to do it? I mean, I don't get paid today, so maybe I should call HR, huh?
Yeah. It's interesting. A lot of employers are scrambling right now because the guidance was only issued, I think, on Friday night. And so they're literally scrambling right now to try to figure out how do we implement it if we decide to for payday.
But the idea is I can get you 6% more in your paycheck. We won't deduct for Social Security, and so everybody will have more money in their paycheck if an employer decides to no longer withhold it. And then, but then, come after the turn of the year, whatever you weren't paying in will come due. It's
correct.
It's just a temporary forgiveness that'll have to be paid back.
That's exactly right, and I think the president is trying to spin it as, maybe the next Congress will waive a portion of those deferred taxes, but that's just a hope on his part, and I don't think people are going to plan based on that.
Well, Raja, that wouldn't have been necessary if you guys would have done something about this to begin with. I mean, that's the president's stopgap shy of a stimulus or a supplement.
I think you're absolutely right that we have to do something right away. I think it's ridiculous that something hasn't been done. We've talked about this before. We have to get another round of stimulus checks. We have to get some enhanced unemployment insurance. I'm getting calls already about this. People can't make do on the regular unemployment given the extra expenses right now with school. Remember, most students are at home. If people are going to work, they need child care, or if they're looking for work, they need additional child care expenses, et cetera. And so these are the types of things that we should just be practical about and just come to a solution on right away.
Well, it seems to me like both sides are playing chicken here, Congressman, because my understanding is that the Republicans would have been agreeable to a week-by-week or month-by-month extension, but Nancy Pelosi said, no, we think we can leverage this president in the Congress because, well, I'm not exactly sure why, but the Democrats were not agreeable to a weekly or monthly extension of these benefits. The Republicans would have gone along with that. So now we got nothing.
They proposed to extend it by 1 week, John, and you can ask every state unemployment insurance system in the country, regardless of whether they're Democrats or Republicans, is this even workable? And the answer is no. They need literally months to be able to have something in place. We know the hiccups that already were in place, here in Illinois, just getting the system up and running for a 6 or 7 month time period. But the other thing, John, which is really the heart of the issue, which the president will not relent on, is aid to states and local governments. Again, we are just getting relentless number of calls from Republicans, Democrats, independents at these different villages and other places, basically saying, look, our sales tax revenues dried up. If we don't get any kind of assistance, we're going to have to lay off, those public safety officers and others that we rely on to combat the pandemic. And so this is a real issue that if we don't deal with, it's going to cause even further layoffs, service interruptions, and God forbid, in some places, increases in taxes and fees, which I think is unacceptable, completely unacceptable in this economy.
It was either Jared Kushner or Don Jr. tweeted recently that if all of those people can riot, and you saw a picture of a protest, then you can vote in person. What's your response to that?
Well, gosh, I think that's one of those statements that doesn't make sense, because the people that are most wanting to use mail-in voting are the most vulnerable among our population, namely seniors, people who are immunocompromised, and other folks. And I think that saying that kind of really ignores the real need to keep these people safe. And by the way, John, they're Democrats, they're Republicans, they're everybody, depending on where you are. They really want this mail-in voting to happen without a hitch.
I do, because I'm voting that way this year for the first time, and my polling place is a short walk from my door. It takes me 2 minutes to vote, but I'm like, okay, let's see how this goes.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Can I just say one thing on that, which is mail-in voting is very secure. I would only say, based on what I could tell, talking to the Postmaster General and others at the USPS, is, please apply if you intend to mail your vote in. Apply for that vote sooner rather than later, so you get the ballot sooner rather than later, and then you can make your decisions as soon as you're ready. Send it in. In Illinois, you can send it in as early as September 24th. So we have the ability to vote securely and safely, but just make a plan.
Good to talk to you, Congressman. Thanks for your time.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Same here.
Krishnamoorthi is the Democrat from the 8th Congressional District.